Joining us now for a daily analysis of the federal election race is CTV News political commentator Scott Reid. Hey, Scott, good morning. Good to see you. Before we talk about the itineraries, because, of course, it's interesting to see where they go at this stage of the game, let's also talk about the numbers, which appear to be somewhat tightening, at least according to the Nanos polling, Scott.
Yeah, no question. And, on a national basis, the numbers is not really that much movement. Nick shows that the Liberals are still up by 5-6%. But I want to circle our backyard. I want to talk about the 416 and 905. In the province of Ontario, one of the things that has really propelled the Liberals to a large lead nationally, and one of the things that have propelled them to this sort of march toward a majority government have been their lead in Ontario. But it is tightening. So Nick has them down to a Liberal advantage of about 8 points over the Conservatives. So you got like about 48 and a half for the Liberals, 40 for the Conservatives. NDP way back, taillights back at 7%. But this is why you're going to see this morning that Pierre Poilievre is in Stony Creek, just outside on the cusp of Hamilton. I think this sort of Golden Horseshoe, 905, 416 area, you're going to see leaders spending a lot of time here in the next 3-4 days, because whoever can pull out a big victory in Ontario gets a monster haul of seats, particularly in the Golden Horseshoe, and that is going to make a huge difference in terms of how election night finishes up for them.
Yeah, and it's also interesting to look at the regions right now, Scott, because we know that in the prairies, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre still has a very healthy lead over there. BC Liberals are ahead. In Quebec, though, Liberals are ahead. But is this going to be a region where it could decide whether or not we see a majority government, depending on the result?
Very much so. And again, just like with Ontario, we're keeping a close eye on what the gap is there. And in Quebec, we saw Mark Carney spend his whole day there yesterday. That was no mistake. They wanted to get him there and talk about how he intends to deliver for French language, French culture, particularly against the threat of Trump. Because one of the crazy, interesting things about this election, which is unprecedented in so many ways, is that Mark Carney, a guy who struggles in French, has propelled his party to a lead over the Bloc Québécois. And for the first time in decades, we've seen a federal leader, a Liberal leader, winning the Francophone votes in Quebec. But that's starting to shift. The Bloc have been rising steadily since the debate. If that narrows and the Bloc are actually counting on Carney to win, so they're now saying Carney's going to win anyway. Don't waste your vote on a Liberal victory. Put your vote behind the Bloc. We'll hold these guys to a minority. Then Quebec will hold the balance of power. That could be the difference between a majority and a minority. And I think you're going to see, with advertising, with high-profile visits, and with every other get-out-the-vote effort they can muster, the Liberals are really going to hammer and hammer hard in the province of Quebec, because that's where the majority lies.
It's interesting, Scott, that Bloc argument sounds a lot like the argument Jagmeet Singh is making right now about, voting NDP and keeping the Liberals in check on that side. But let's talk about Liberal leader Mark Carney. His campaign itinerary coming out a little later this morning than we anticipated. I know you thought he was probably going to spend the day in Ontario. What do you make then of where he's going and why?
Well, I think, you've only got so many days left. So if he is going to be heading west, it's probably because, you have to do the calendar, you have to do the time zones, get that out of the way now. And I think it sets up. I'm going to claim, Nick, that I was right all along. It means that allows him to then concentrate on the remaining days in Ontario. And I do think, there might be a pop-off to the Winnipegs or something like that quickly. Maybe he'll make one more visit to Edmonton, his hometown, where, by the way, the Liberals look like they could actually do some real damage. But I think they're going to keep their focus in Ontario, the Golden Horseshoe, 905, like I said. And here's one other thing that does help, even as the race narrows, helps Carney, gives them some comfort. The NDP are so invisible. At 7%. They are such a non-factor in so many ridings. It means that you don't get vote splits. So for the Conservatives, the nightmare is they'll get really incredibly high numbers for Conservatives. They'll be winning ridings. They'll be getting 40% of the vote in a bunch of these ridings and then losing by a hair to Liberals who are getting 45, 48, 46%. That's really, really tough for the Conservatives, but that's the effect that happens from the NDP collapsing, because most of that vote migrates to Liberals.
Yeah. Okay, Scott, we're out of time, but I'm very curious to know, do we have any confirmation yet if Mark Carney is going to be attending the Pope's funeral this Saturday? Can he afford to do so?
As far as we know, he's not. I think you'll probably see the governor general, some other small delegation of dignitaries go. I mean, from my perspective, and I was in a heated debate with some people in and around the prime minister yesterday with this. To me, it would be bananas to take him off the campaign trail as we see these numbers tighten to send him to Europe. Yeah, sure, he gets to play the prime minister, but there aren't a lot of votes in Vatican City.
Okay, appreciate the perspective there. Scott Reid, as always, we'll chat tomorrow morning. Let's see what happens next.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.